Hello everyone. Happy Monday, April 15th, 2019. Today is known as also April 15th as the tax day in the United States of America. So hopefully all you individuals have gotten your taxes filed. I took care of mine a little bit early because I'm traveling all over the place. So anyway, I am in Gillette, Wyoming. It is known as the Cowboy State, so I saw lots of cowboys everywhere. Went to a cowboy church yesterday, first time ever, and lots of trucks everywhere. I think the number of trucks versus car ratio has got to be 2 to 1 at least in Wyoming, and Texas it seems like too. So I have been traveling a lot lately. Hello Tina, hello Diana, hello Jane, hello Judy, hello gang. We had a RTF Deliverance Team training call last night, and so I updated some of my team. We've got about 100 people now in 9 countries with the latest and greatest of what God's been doing. So I'm going to update the rest of the world today before I get into the teaching that the Lord wanted me to talk about. So yes, I haven't been on here for a while as far as doing teachings for like got to been about 10 days now, and when you're doing obviously a lot of ministry in different cities and different countries, it does take up time. You can't just do a training or teaching every single day sometimes. So ultimately I was thinking back this morning, just I've been to, I guess, doing ministry 7 days out of the last 9 in 5 cities and in 2 countries between Canada and the United States. And a lot of great things have been happening. You know, I was up in Canada, up in Ontario, in St. Catharines, which is near Niagara Falls, which is near Buffalo, New York. And there was one woman there who had been struggling with some witchcraft curses that had been spoken over her, and so the Lord had me just put my hand on her head and just command the spirits to go, and within about a minute, you know, all the curses were broken off her. She felt at peace, she felt amazing. And we did a group deliverance, a corporate deliverance that night, Friday night, a couple Fridays ago, and several people came back the next morning and were commenting that they gotten healed from like knee pain for the last, I don't know, 10 or 15 years. Neck pain was healed. People had dreams for the first time in forever. So a lot of great testimonies coming out of Canada. And then I drove from Canada through stayed in Lansing, Michigan. On my way from Lansing to Iowa that next day, Sunday, I was speaking Sunday night, there was a billboard that caught my attention, caught my eye, which is really why I'm teaching when I'm teaching today. The billboard said, "Real Christians obey Jesus's teachings." And I was like, amen, when I saw that. So that's why I'm speaking on that today, is that caught my eye. It was a week ago Sunday when I was heading towards Iowa. And again, between Canada and Iowa, there's, I don't know, I think it's about a, what is it, 13-hour drive, 14-hour drive, something like that. And we had a lot of great deliverances that took place in Iowa. And then on Monday of last week, I interviewed the Powers, Jeremy and Tina. Powerful, powerful testimony. If you didn't see that, it's on YouTube now. I actually showed it on my training this weekend in Gillette, Wyoming, and people were very impacted by their testimony. You know, Jeremy had struggled with alcohol for a couple of years and a lot of striving in their marriage, and he came expecting, wanting, you know, Tina was like, this is our last hope, and deliverance happened and completely set them free, both of them. You know, Jeremy was didn't feel anything, he said initially, but he said that he knew something had happened, and then he explained the next day that he was no longer desiring to drink alcohol. So how cool is that? And their kids love them. They don't fight, strive, and argue anymore. You know, that really helps, you know, the conduciveness to family cohesiveness when you're not striving, when you're not hearing the voice of the enemy telling you to take out all your anger and stuff and pain on your spouse and kids. So that's a great testimony. If you haven't watched that, watch it. And then I went up to Appleton when was it, Monday night. I did ministry Appleton, Wisconsin Tuesday night with Kel Bales, and again we had a packed conference room at this hotel in Appleton. There are some people there that came from healing rooms, like an hour or so away. We're getting a lot more people that are a part of healing rooms and are now starting to get interested in restorative freedom and seeing the results that we're seeing throughout their healing rooms. Because what I learned when I had my own healing rooms is that when people went through deliverance, the rate of success in a person's life getting set free and getting healed went up tremendously. And when you do it in a normal way, then people will come. If you have a lot of weirdness that happens and a lot of you know, demonic manifestations, then it's a little more challenging sometimes. So, but anyway, great time in Appleton with my friend Kel Bales. Got to go to Lambeau Field, the home of the Green Bay Packers, and take a tour of the football stadium. And then I went to Sheboygan, Wisconsin last Wednesday at a Knights of Columbus, which is a Catholic organization. And it was just very interesting. You know, they had a bar in one side that was a huge bar, and then they had like a fireplace, and they had a place for chairs and seats and tables at the other end, and a kitchen and so forth. And it was snowing, so it looked like Christmas out there. And I remember after we were done with the deliverance session that there was a woman that came up to me and said, Nelson, right before we went through the deliverance prayers, I could feel the demons inside of me angry. They were so angry. I could feel like they were shaking inside with such an anger. And then I went through the prayers, and then they were gone. And I felt peace for the first time in my life. So I love that, you know, real testimony. You know, lots of people there got set free. And so then I went, was it last Thursday morning? There was a blizzard that was coming through. So the blizzard was trying to keep me from coming to Gillette, Wyoming. And the direct route was taking I-90 straight west from Wisconsin all the way through Minnesota, through southern South Dakota, and then straight here to Gillette. And I was like, oh my gosh, how am I going to get through the blizzard? The blizzard's not good. You can't really drive very easily, even though I've got an all-wheel drive car. And the Lord said, go south, young man, go southwest. And so I ended up driving towards Omaha, and it was really weird. It went from like temperatures of 31 degrees up to 63, I think, or 64 in Des Moines, Iowa. And then as I'm driving, continuing west on I-80, I went to Omaha, Nebraska, and then Lincoln, Nebraska, and then I got to Kearney, Nebraska, and then they shut the interstate down. And it was great because it was like 8 o'clock at night. I was ready, done driving. I drove like 12 hours or something, and winds were like 40, 50 mile an hour, and had a good night's sleep. And then the next day drove. They opened up the interstate right before I got there, and I was able to come all the way up on the south side to get to Gillette, Wyoming in time for Friday night's deliverance session and Saturday. And we had several people from the healing rooms in Gillette that came and attended, and people from different churches. And lots of deliverances, lots of yawning, lots of people feeling more peace than ever before, and great things are happening everywhere as it continues to grow. So anyway, I wanted to share the travels. That's why I wasn't on Facebook Live very much the last week. Lots of busyness and traveling. Today's topic, real Christians obey Jesus' teachings. That was on a billboard in Southwest Michigan. And again, when it caught my eye, I was like, oh my gosh, we need to have billboards like this everywhere, because it's true. You know, there's a lot of fake Christians that are in the church. We all know them. You know, some of them were us, some of them are us that are watching. What's a fake Christian? A fake Christian's a person that acts all sweet and nice in front of the church, and then as soon as they get in the car, or as soon as they go home, they start being bad, being mean, being not good, not godly. And of course, when that happens, then what's the deal? Why are they behaving that way? You know, that doesn't make sense. You know, that it goes against what a real Christian should be, obviously. So, and we've all seen that. We've seen ourselves, we've seen our spouses, we've seen our parents, where they act all godly, but then they're fakes. They're kind of like the Pharisees. They're kind of like the Sadducees and the elect, those that were the leaders of the day back in Jesus's time, where they acted all sweet and nice, and but yet they were very hurting and condemning and hurting people that were hurt. And so That's the difference, is that people that get delivered will not hear those voices of the enemy anymore. They will hear the Lord's voice or their own thoughts, and then they'll treat people accordingly. Treat people with respect, with love, with joy, instead of with pride, with arrogance, and control and manipulation and lying. That's what a fake Christian is. It's interesting that President Trump talks a lot about fake news, and there's truth to that. There's organizations out there that are lying, twisting the truth. They're fake, and it's time to get real, and it's time to have true freedom, which we'll be starting to have some new conferences down the road that will be called True Freedom, where we will truly get people set free, and they will actually be true, real Christians instead of fake ones. We know fake ones because fake ones are saying things to hurt people and lying and controlling and so forth. So what does it say? What did Jesus say about one of his teachings? It was in John 15, 1 through 25, that the Lord wanted me to read from. It says, I am the true vine, and my Father is the vine dresser. Every branch in me that does not bear fruit, he takes away. And every branch that bears fruit, he prunes, that it may bear more fruit. You are already clean because of the word which I have spoken to you. Abide in me, and I in you. As the branch cannot bear fruit of itself unless it abides in the vine, neither can you unless you abide in me. I am the vine, you are the branches. He who abides in me, and I in him, bears much fruit. For without me you can do nothing. If anyone does not abide in me, he is cast out as a branch and is withered, and they gather them and throw them into the fire, and they are burned. So what does that mean? When it comes down to it, it means that if we're a real Christian, we're going to have fruit that smells good. Love, joy, peace, patience, being tender, being gentle, being godly, being Christ-like. That's what we're going to see as fruit. Whereas those that are fake Christians, they're going to act like they're godly, but they're not. They're going to say horrible things to people. They're going to lie about people. They're going to manipulate. They're going to have a lot of pride. Pride is the biggest thing that you'll see in their life, and pride stinks to high heaven. It got Lucifer kicked out of heaven. The Lord is humbling a lot of people in the church that are very prideful, very arrogant. It's nothing worse than being married to someone that's prideful, that's arrogant, or being friends with someone that's like that. We all know people like that, and we don't want to be around them. We frankly want to get away from people that are prideful, and that's what will stop people from getting delivered. If they are like the Pharisees and so forth, then they'll refuse to get delivered. So that's why those type of people would come against my ministry, because the demons in them would hate the Christ in me. So just like you, if you've got yourself delivered and you have more fruit that bears witness, that's godly, that's Christian, that's Christ-like, that's pure, that's spotless, you're going to have a lot of people that have demons that will hate you, and they will lie about you. They will tell people to block you on Facebook and spread a bunch of rumors that aren't true. There's people that are maybe your spouse that have that spirit. We all know that. We've had, most of those that follow me have had run-ins with people, oftentimes your spouse, your ex-spouse, or your mother, your father, and you have to pull away from them. When Jesus came, he told people that, the fathers would not get along with the sons, and the daughters and the mothers, because of Jesus's message, because those that would choose to receive Christ, those that still had demons, would hate them, would come against them. So that's par for the course. So let me go on. It says that they're going to be thrown in the fire if they don't have Christ in them. So they're going to go to hell. That's what's going to happen. So there's going to be a lot of people right now that are in church, if they don't get delivered, will not be making it into heaven. Even though they may have a lot of great works, they appear to be good to a lot of people. It's the heart and the mind that makes the difference whether or not you go to heaven or not, and God knows that. He knows your heart. He knows your mind. Okay, it says, if you abide in me and my words abide in you, you will ask what you desire, and it shall be done for you. By this my Father is glorified, that you bear much fruit, so you will be my disciples. As the Father loved me, I also have loved you. Abide in my love. If you keep my commandments, you will abide in my love, just as I have kept my Father's commandments and abide in his love. These things I have spoken to you, that my joy may remain in you, and that your joy may be full. This is my commandment, that you love one another as I have loved you. So we understand that if you have Christ in you, you're a true Christian, you will have love in you for other people, and it will be evident by the fruit. Those that are fake Christians will not have love. They will do things to hurt people, to try to benefit themselves. Why? Because they're hearing the voice of the enemy. Their thoughts are being enemy-driven instead of being Christ-like driven. Those that get set free, that humble themselves, that forgive those that have hurt them, will walk as Christ walked. Those that don't, won't. So, this is my commandment, that you love one another as I loved you. Greater love has no one than this, than to lay down one's life for his friends. You are my friends if you do whatever I command you. No longer do I call you servants, for a servant does not know what his master is doing. But I have called you friends, for all things that I heard from my Father I have made known to you. You did not choose me, but I chose you and appointed you that you should go and bear fruit, and that your fruit should remain. You know, when you have good roots, you're going to have good fruits. When you have bad roots, which are being hit by the enemy, by demonic voices and thoughts, they're going to have bad fruit. And that's what it comes down to. When you get delivered, it's all of a sudden your roots are now changed. They're no longer being sucked down to hell. You know, they are being basically blessed and watered by heaven, by the Lord. And therefore you'll have good fruit that will come out of that. You won't have the thoughts pinging you every day from the enemy. You know, I get messages every single day, you know, and if I go out to the Jezebel support group that we have every single day from people saying, help me, my spouse did this horrible thing, this awful thing, and yet they act all godly in front of the people at church. And I don't get supported because they are a much better actor at lying than I am at telling the truth about my spouse. And it's so sad. It's just sad. That's why we need pastors preaching this on a regular basis, so that the people that are operating in Jezebel Leviathan spirits will be convicted. Not condemned, but convicted. That's my message, is to speak words of love, but truth. Jesus spoke truth, and he had a lot of people that hated him. I'm going to go through a little bit of why. And this kind of explains it right here with what Jesus said in John 15. He says, these things I command you, that you love one another. If the world hates you, you know that it hated me before it hated you. If you were of the world would love its own. Yet because you are not of the world, but I chose you out of the world, therefore the world hates you. So the world essentially are those that can be in the church, that profess to be Christians, but yet they have enemy-driven thoughts. They're essentially of the world, and they will hate you. They will come after you. They will lie about you. They will twist the truth. They will make you look like the bad guy when they are the one that should be holding that moniker. So remember the word that I said to you, a servant is not greater than his master. If they persecuted me, Jesus said, then they will also persecute you. So again, Paul did not want to be persecuted by that person that was sent to buffet him by Satan. And again, you know, I believe that person had Jezebel. They were going wherever he went. They were lying about him, twisting the truth, probably even cursing him. And he was like, I want you to take away this thorn in my side, thorn in the flesh. Get it out of here. And God wouldn't do it. 3 times he asked. So we have a lot of thorns in our flesh, pains in our butts, would be what it was called, from other people in our relationships that are lying about us, that are trying to come against those that are truly Christians. But again, Jesus had to go through it. You know, he couldn't take over and say, God, can you zap this person for me because they're a pain in my butt? All these Pharisees, Sadducees that were evil. Nope, God wouldn't do it. They ultimately killed him. You know, so sometimes you may feel like you're out there alone, and a lot of us are, where you have people in church that are coming against you, trying to hit you. Well, count it all as joy, my friend, because you're making a difference. You're being impactful if that's the case, unfortunately, because not everybody in the church are Christians. But all these things they will do to you for my name's sake, because they do not know him who sent me. If I had not come and spoken to them, they would have no sin. But now they have no excuse for their sin. Amen. You know, there's people out there that are teaching that are witches, white witches, you know, and warlocks that are basically in the church, that are saying things to people, acting like they're Holy Spirit, but they're not, and they're ungodly. And they will look at you if you try to, you know, tell other people about them and warn other people that you are their enemies. And they will come against you as being their enemy. And they will lie about you and tell other people to block you and tell things that aren't true. But then ultimately, what happens is the truth comes to light. You know, normally through dreams or visions, or sometimes people will reach out and say, hey, what's the truth about this person? And again, you have to make sure that you're discerning, that your discerner is turned up. So he who hates me hates my Father also. If I had not done among them the works which no one else did, they would have no sin, but now they have seen, and also hated both me and my Father. But this happened that the word might be fulfilled, which is written in their law, they hated me without a cause. So I notice that oftentimes when I'm doing a deliverance session, say corporately, if there are some people in the audience that have a very strong influence of demons, they will reject what I'm saying, but I'm speaking the truth to them. So they have the choice at that point to accept it and get delivered, humble themselves, if they have the spirits. You know, most of them that are rejecting the message, obviously are hearing from the enemy. But those that are halfway open and or mostly set free are going to receive the message and love the message because it's truth. That's what Jesus does here. He speaks the truth, and then the people chose to whether or not to receive it or not. And so then therefore, when the truth is spoken, if they reject the truth, then they're basically of the world at that point, and the enemy has them. So, Galatians 5:16-26 says, I say then, walk in the Spirit, and you shall not fulfill the lust of the flesh. For the flesh lusts against the Spirit, and the Spirit against the flesh. And these are contrary to one another, so that you do not do the things that you wish. But if you are led by the Spirit, you are not under the law. Now the works of the flesh are evident, which are, so again, these are behavior characteristics of people who are not Christians. And again, a lot of these people are in the church. It says adultery, fornication, uncleanness, lewdness, idolatry, sorcery, which is witchcraft, which is Jezebel, which is making curses towards other people, hatred, contentions, which is strife, jealousies, outbursts of wrath, selfish ambitions, dissensions, heresies, envy. All that describes people that have the Jezebel spirit. Murders, drunkenness, revelries, and the like, of which I tell you beforehand, just as I also told you in time past, that those who practice such things will not inherit the kingdom of God. So there you go. Pretty simple. If you are operating in the spirit of Jezebel, you're going to have a lot of this stuff in your life. You're going to have a lot of strife, a lot of jealousy, a lot of anger, envy, raising your voice, getting angry, blaming everything on somebody else, lying about them. It says, but the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, long-suffering, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. How many people that are of the Lord, or that are Christ-like, can't control themselves? Most can. Those that aren't Christ-like have no self-control, and they'll go off on you, yell and scream and raise their voice, have tones, and before you know it, you are like running to run from them, just like Elijah ran from Jezebel and wanted to get away. It says, against such there is no law, and those who are Christ have crucified the flesh with its passions and desires. If we live in the Spirit, let us also walk in the Spirit. Let us not become conceited, which is pride, provoking one another, envying one another. So again, that's the difference between a Christian and a real Christian and a fake Christian. Lots of fake ones that are out there. What percentage? I don't know. I'm not God, but I do know in a typical church, I would guess 50% would be my guess that are not real. And it says in Jeremiah 17:10, I, the Lord, search the heart, I test the mind. So that's what dictates. What's your heart like? What's coming out of your heart? You know, you speak basically out of the things that are in your heart, you know, and your mind. So it says, I search the heart, I test the mind. even to give every man according to his ways, according to the fruit of his doings. Matthew 7:21-23. Not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, shall enter the kingdom of heaven, but he who does the will of my Father in heaven. Many will say to me in that day, many will say to me, many. That means a lot. Lord, Lord, have we not prophesied in your name, cast out demons in your name, done many wonders in your name? And then I will declare to them, I never knew you. Depart from me, you who practice lawlessness, which is sin. So again, you can cast out demons. You can prophesy. And that may not be enough to get you into heaven. Why? Because who are you behind closed doors? How do you treat your spouse? How do you treat your children? How do you treat your mother, your father, your friends? Are you fake or are you real? You cannot fake out God. So, and I'm going to read this. This is really good. I just found this morning. A guy named Don Stewart, D-O-N, Don Stewart. Why did the religious leaders want to kill Jesus? And you can kind of think about it even as yourself. When you're doing ministry that is impactful, especially deliverance ministry, you know, the enemy comes against deliverance more than any ministry out there because that's truly getting people pure and spotless so they can go to heaven. You know, the enemy doesn't mind if you want to prophesy all day long, you know, and, you know, go to church all day long if you're not going to really be a true Christian. So I'm going to read this. Again, this is Don Stewart. Why did the religious leaders want to kill Jesus? The New Testament records that the religious leaders hated Jesus to the point that they arrested him, tried him, and brought him to Pilate for a sentence of death. What made them so angry at Jesus that they wanted to see him dead? Again, you think about yourself. What would cause certain people to be so angry with you to want to kill you? Because a lot of times they're speaking words to come against you, to curse you. And the demons in them would love to have you die. So, here we go. Let me get a drink here. I'm a little thirsty. In fact, I'm a little thirsty because I think I'm like a mile high. Denver is not too far from here. Denver, Colorado is south of Gillette. I don't know how many hours, but 4 hours maybe. But it's close to a mile high here in Gillette, Wyoming, so I drink a lot of water. All right. So there are a number of things about Jesus that infuriated the religious leaders. These included the claims that he made, the deeds that he did, his threat to their religious system, his threat to their way of life, the people with whom he socialized, the lack of respect he had for their religious traditions, you know, the religious spirit. So these 6 things caused outrage among the religious leaders of Jesus' times. Consequently, they wanted to see him dead. So we read the first one. Jesus claims, his claims outweighed their authority. When Jesus claimed to be the Messiah, it meant his authority outweighed their authority. The religious leaders did not believe his claims and were angry that some of the people did. They said, have any of the rulers or the Pharisees believed in him? But this crowd that does not know the law is accursed. John 7:48-49. The religious leaders assumed that the belief of some of the crowd was due to ignorance, but the attention Jesus was getting brought out the leaders' hatred and jealousy. The jealousy of the religious leaders caused them to want Jesus dead. So you can think about that in your own life. When you are doing what Christ wants you to do, there can be religious leaders in your own church and other churches that will wish you dead because the demons in them are hating on you. And I know a lot of people that are setting up these meetings, these Restored to Freedom meetings, and they have a lot of spiritual warfare that comes against them, oftentimes from people in their own church or others. And it's not easy when a person gets in your face or lies about you. You know, that's the demons in them, because obviously the fruit of Restored to Freedom is evident now. We're seeing, you know, thousands and thousands get set free and delivered every single, you know, year. I don't know how many, you know, thousands and thousands, but a lot. And as it continues to grow, people are going to want to say, you know, that have influence of demonic spirits are going to hate on me and going to hate on you because you're making a huge impact when you do that. Number 2, his deeds outraged the religious rulers of the day. The deeds of Jesus also angered the religious leaders. After seeing Jesus heal a demon-possessed man, some of the multitude questioned if Jesus could be the Messiah. It says, and some of the multitudes were amazed and said, could this be the son of David, the Messiah? But when the Pharisees heard it, they said, "This fellow does not cast out demons except by Beelzebub, the ruler of the demons." Matthew 12:23-24. The miracle was undeniable, for the man was blind and mute as well as demon-possessed. Rather than believe Jesus to be the Messiah, these religious rulers attributed Jesus' power to the devil. Thus, their official explanation was that Jesus' power came from Satan. This was another cause for which they wanted him dead. So, another example for you guys is when you're out there and you're praying for people, you're helping them get delivered and set free and or healed, because we see a lot of healings when people get delivered. There are going to be people in like their own families that will be angry because they still have demons, and they will hate them. They will hate them if a person gets set free and delivered. They don't have to take medication anymore. They no longer have bipolar. Then their mother or their father, whoever has Jezebel, will be hating on them and will come against them, berate them over and over again, trying to get them to be sucked back in to the demons that are on them. So there are times when you have to walk away from your family and love them from afar, because if you don't, you'll come underneath the demons within them, and you can't do that. You have to follow God. You have to follow Jesus. So, number 3, Jesus was a threat to their religious system. Jesus was also a threat to the religious system. He pointed out the hypocrisy that was connected with their practice. The Bible records that on 2 different occasions he came into the temple precincts and drove out the money changers. The Passover of the Jews was near, and Jesus went up to Jerusalem. He found in the temple those who were selling oxen and sheep and doves, and the money changers seated at their tables. And he made a scourge of cords and drove them all out of the temple, with the sheep and the oxen, and he poured out the coins of the money changers and overturned their tables. And to those who were selling the doves, he said, "Take these things away. Stop making my Father's house a place of business." His disciples remembered that it was written, "Zeal for your house will consume me." John 2:13-17. So again, oftentimes you'll see this in churches where they're making a mockery of the actual building itself, and they're conducting things they shouldn't be. Maybe they're playing games that are ungodly. Maybe they're playing like Dungeons and Dragons, or they're talking about the occult books like what's the guy's name? Harry Potter. I know there are some churches that actually like condone that. I've heard just recently here of one church that was condoning a man that was gay to come in and pray for people, and he had written a book where it said, that God was fine with people that were gay, and I'm like, are you kidding me? What has this church become? This is so wrong. This is so evil. If Jesus were here today, he would be taking that cord to a lot of people within the church and saying, "Stop this. Wake up. This is horrible. What are you doing to my temple?" So then number 4, Jesus was a threat to their way of life. There were political reasons that the religious leaders wanted Jesus dead. There was an unstable situation between the Jews and the Romans. The thought of a Messiah who may lead an uprising against Rome was a big fear that the leaders of the day had. So that's why another reason they wanted him dead. Number 5, the people with whom he socialized outraged the religious rulers, because again, they had a lot of pride out there. The religious leaders were filled with pride and arrogance. They were particularly proud that they did not socialize with sinners. They did not believe that the Messiah would socialize with such a crowd. When one Pharisee saw Jesus allow a woman to wash his feet, he said, "This man, if he were a prophet, would know who and what manner of woman this is, who is touching him, for she is a sinner." Luke 7:39. Jesus noted their opinion of him. It says, "The Son of Man came eating and drinking, and they say, 'Look, a gluttonous man and a drunkard, a friend of tax collectors and sinners.'" Matthew 11:19. The religious rulers believed themselves to be righteous by avoiding sinners. When Jesus kept company with these individuals, it infuriated the proud Pharisees and other religious rulers. So, those that have been hurt the deepest, you see that right now actually with the people that are getting certified with restorative freedom. A lot of them have been hurt very deeply by people that have these spirits. And then they ended up inheriting the spirits because of that, because of the pains. So they had Jezebel, Leviathan, Ahab. Well, when a person gets set free and delivered, then they're humble, and they've forgiven those that have hurt them. The Lord is raising up those that have a humble heart, to deliver those that are in the church that have prideful hearts, that are in leadership. So we count it all joy when the enemy does come against us. But because we have the Lord's heart, and we don't have, the arrogancy, the pridefulness, jealousy, envy, all the things that those that are not real Christians have, the Lord's raising us up, raising up no-names that don't know, that never had a ministry, and He's using us in a powerful way. As long as we stay humble, have to stay humble. You can't just, okay, I'm good to go now, and then all of a sudden the enemy starts feeding your pride and your ego, and you start to become more like the Pharisees again, and we can't do that. So, and then number 6, Jesus had a lack of respect for their traditions. As much as anything, the lack of respect that Jesus had for the religious traditions incensed the religious leaders. Jesus ignored these traditions, which they observed so minutely. He knew that they were human-made rules that had not come from God. And it was Jesus' disregard for their traditions concerning the Sabbath that caused the most outrage. God had commanded the Sabbath to be a day of rest from labors and a time to worship Him. The religious leaders added all types of restrictions to the Sabbath, making it difficult, if not impossible, to observe. Of course, they were religious. That's a religious spirit. That's in a lot of the churches. Jesus was grieved and angry at the way they had perverted the Sabbath observance. He asked the religious leaders, "Is it lawful on the Sabbath to do good or to do evil, to save life or to kill?" But they kept silent because they knew that they were getting set up, because Jesus was smarter, more cunning than what they were with their evilness. So when He had looked around at them with anger, being grieved by the hardness of their hearts, Mark 3:4-5, Jesus then healed the man in their presence. This healing on the Sabbath was more than they could endure. They concluded that the genuine Messiah would never dare do such a horrible thing as healing someone on the Sabbath. Their response was immediate. Then the Pharisees went out and immediately plotted with the Herodians against Him, how that they might destroy Him. Mark 3:6. They were convinced that Jesus had to die. But they had no godly or righteous motive. It was not for anything godly or righteous that the religious leaders wanted to put Jesus to death. It was their hypocrisy and pride and arrogance. So it was the demons inside of them that were raging. That's why when we see people go through deliverance, like that woman I just referred to you that was from Sheboygan, Wisconsin, she could feel the demons inside of her raging with anger and shaking and violence, not wanting her to go through the prayers to get them delivered and cast them, we command them to go to hell. So afterward, she felt amazing. She's like, "This is awesome. Praise God. Where has this ministry been? We need more people to do deliverance." I'm like, yes, we do. And the God is building this out. So, and the religious leaders of our day don't like it. In fact, you go into most churches, they will never talk about deliverance. They'll say Christians can't have demons. Once saved, always saved. You ask Jesus into your heart when you're 8, and you're good to go, even though you're yelling and screaming at your kids, and you're on the verge of divorce, and you have all these addictions. It's like, yeah, that's a Christian. Wink, wink. It's like, speak the truth, pastors. When you speak the truth, it will set people free. And yes, you may irritate a few people that have demons. Well, what are you going to do? Come under those demons and let them control your church and hurt your good people? Or are you going to speak the truth? Be a mighty man of valor. Be a mighty woman of valor. And get people delivered and set free, and get people pure and spotless before Christ comes back, so they can be real Christians and they can go to heaven. So, all right. So summarizing this, the religious leaders wanted Jesus dead for a number of reasons. None of the reasons were righteous. First, the claims that He made demonstrated that His authority was greater than theirs. The religious leaders could not accept this. The miraculous deeds that He, which demonstrated His superior authority, was also a reason they wanted Him dead. Jesus was also a threat to their religious system. He went to the temple and condemned the practices. They also considered Him a threat to their way of life. They were worried how the Romans would respond. The people with whom Jesus socialized offended the pride the demons of pride, the Leviathan spirits of the religious leaders. Again, the religious leaders had Jezebel Leviathan strongly. Above all, it was the lack of respect for their religious traditions that caused them the desire to kill Jesus. This is particularly true of Jesus' attitude toward the Sabbath. All of these things contributed to their evil desire to want Jesus dead. So, we need to not bow down to people that have religious spirits, people that have demons, people that want to control, manipulate, not out of righteousness sake. They're doing it out of demonic influence. And so when you get set free, when you get delivered, you're on fire. You're like having your own personal revival. And that's what I've seen in people's lives. They are revived. They can hear the Lord's voice clearly. They can walk in divine health. They can help other people get delivered and get healed. And they're on fire for God, and they want to tell their brothers and their sisters and their moms and their dads and get their entire family set free. And of course, the demons and other people will try to stop you and come against you. And deliverance is not for the weak of heart. It is for those that are bold and those that are confident and knowing that God is for you and that the enemy will be against you, just like the enemy was against Jesus. So, all that being said, be a real Christian. Don't be a fake. And real Christians, they'll obey Jesus' teachings. And if they do mess up, they'll end up saying, Father, forgive me. And repent. Not want to do it anymore. It's those that are prideful and arrogant that will keep trying to get away with things. And then saying that they don't even need to repent anymore. Don't need to ask for forgiveness. And then their hearts are so hardened, so prideful. It's just evil. So, that all being said, my upcoming schedule, April 23rd, I'll be in Douglas, Wyoming, which is just south of Gillette. April 26th, I'll be at Everlasting Covenant Congregation, Pastor Steve Heimbichner, Billings, Montana. I'll be doing a Friday night deliverance session, April 26th, April 27th, doing a training and equipping, getting people certified under Restorative Freedom. April 28th, doing the Worldwide Freedom Session. May 3rd and 4th, Stepping in the Deep Waters in Idaho Falls, Idaho. And then I am looking to schedule right now some other places in Washington and Portland for May, as well as in California, late May or early June. So as that gets scheduled, I will add that to the list there. And I've already got booked up in Arizona in June. And then July, I'll be in Texas and Louisiana and Ohio. So, alrighty. I'm going to have to let you go because I have some things to do. So, no prophetic words over people. So, thank you, though, for watching, and blessings over all of you. Thank you for helping to become real Christians and not fakes, and getting the word out there. So, I love you guys. I speak blessings over all of you, and Jesus loves you. Yes, he does. Amen. See ya. Bye.